Hey, it's Del Jackson. We're doing our LLhoops Zoom again. I mean, we're going around the league. We're getting some coaches from different sections. At least that's what Andy and I try to do. The last couple of nights, we got into the Berks County and Berks County football coming to the LL and still be in the LL League. So that'll be interesting. And we got somebody that has some connections to Berks here with us tonight, Coach Treese, Ephrata. So we did a little bit of review. You were head coach at Muhlenberg for a while, and then you've been in Ephrata for the last 3 years. Help us out with some more background, like where you graduated. I saw you graduated from up north in high school, but kind of fill in the blanks for us if you would.
Yeah, I graduated high school from Hughesville High School. So the current head coach at Hughesville High School, Nick Tagliaferri, good mentor of mine. I was his first year there. I was a sophomore, so I took the lumps those first couple years of his coaching tenure there. We got it turned around. We were a 15 or 16 win team my senior year, and they kind of took off, became a bit of a small school powerhouse in Pennsylvania after I graduated. And then I went to Lebanon Valley College. I ended up not playing basketball at Lebanon Valley College, which was the original plan, but I didn't play. So when I graduated college, I moved back home. I was Alan Taylor's assistant at Williamsport Area High School for the boys side for 4 years. We rebuilt for 2 years there. Then we experienced 2 really successful years. We had a few really talented guys. We actually had 3 D1 players on one squad for 2 straight years. So then I took a teaching job at Muhlenberg after that season. And then I was, they were going through a transition. They had a coach that was in place there and had to move on for different reasons. So I took a job kind of late in October. I did 4 years there. We were trying to build. We were working towards some things. Win-loss column didn't go exactly well at Muhlenberg as much as we had hoped, but we had built some talent. Actually, I know you talked to Coach Nesby last week. A couple of guys in his team, when they were in junior high, I worked with those guys, and when he came in, I explained, like, you've got some real hard-working guys. So a lot of success that Muhlenberg's having right now. Those kids, I want to give them a lot of credit. I mean, they've always been really good, like gym rats, worked hard on their game. And since I work at Muhlenberg, I mean, that's what's going on there with Coach Nesby and him being named Coach of the Year for 5A and them having these runs these last couple of years. Great for the community there. It's obvious community I care deeply about after working there for 7 years. I decided to move on to Ephrata 3 years ago. Inherited a really, really talented class of seniors that were very much ready to take the next step. Never like to talk badly about officiating. I do feel like my first year, we had a very, very good chance of winning a league title. I think losing that league semifinal maybe took the wind out of our sails a little bit, and then that kind of cost us that state playoff berth that Ephrata was looking for. I'm happy to coach there because it's where I live. I live 8 minutes or less away from the high school. This year we took serious lumps trying to figure out where we were going next. But the good thing is that we have a coaching staff filled with talented coaches. We have a program filled with talented kids. And it's going to get a lot better. I would almost say no matter what I do, it's going to get a lot better because there's so many good pieces in place as we kind of move forward. And that's brought me to Ephrata currently going into my 4th year. Well, I guess my 3rd summer and 4th year with the program.
Let me ask you this, because I've been there and done that. I've been in your shoes and 1 year I was 1-22, so I can kind of relate to what's going on with that. But let me ask you, how do you deal with that, with going from a really, really good team to the last kind of couple of years struggling a little bit with the wins and losses? How do you keep your kids focused? How do you keep the parents focused? I mean, how do you keep things going when you're struggling with wins and losses?
Well, Ephrata is a very proud community. They've experienced loss, they've experienced winning in various sports programs. You have to remember as a head coach, when you lose, people care about it, but you want that because when you win, people care about it. So the way we kind of weather those losses is, we talk as a coaching staff very regularly about how do we build from here, how do we make things better. When I experienced that success my first year at Ephrata, I was also at the same time trying to kind of implement my own systems and how I believe in building a program, K through 12, things like that. So we knew after that group we were going to face adversity for a couple years. So we really, really focused on how we built our elementary and junior high programs. Now, thankfully in Ephrata, as the head coach, you have some really good things going for you. One, you have a fantastic booster club, do a lot of fantastic things, give our athletes a great student athlete experience. You have a very strong feeder program through the rec that also has a good, strong traveling team. We had good volunteers. I've worked with our volunteer coaches on a number of times. And then my junior high staff is phenomenal. I got to, my second year, I brought in a new junior high coach that joined, other coaches that I have a mixture of guys that have been around basketball a long time and guys that were actually alumni of the program. So the invested interest at all levels is very, very high. I think that's the biggest thing you do. Ego-wise, nobody likes going 0-22, likes going 3-18, whatever it might be. But ego-wise, I know that there's a lot of people working towards making that be a better thing. So, it's adversity, but it's just part of, I inherited a really good situation for that year, but any new coach was going to have to kind of rebuild how they handle things at all levels and do it their own way. So now now the focus now is on making sure that the culture that I believe in, that I've built with my assistant coaches, how do we make that be the focus for our kids? Because after you're really, really good and then you have a really bad season, it's really easy to lose culture. But we just had it a couple of years ago, so we're finding really good ways to keep that culture built.
Okay, that's good. I think Andy's got himself set up now. I'm not sure here. I don't see his sneakers.
We'll try.
So
We'll try.
I think he's ready, and your show here, Andy.
All right. Well, Coach, first of all, I want to thank you for jumping on, because a lot of times when the media does these like season wrap-up things, we only accentuate the good, right? Like only the teams of the year, the players of the year, coaches and stuff like that. And obviously when you go through a tough season like you did last year, it'd be easy to, kind of duck away and not want anything to do with something like this. So I sincerely appreciate you jumping on with us here. But the season you guys had last year, I personally have experienced something like that. My senior year, we came off 3 straight district appearances. We went to leagues the year before, and we won a whopping 5 games my senior year, and 4 of them were in December. So we didn't go into tailspin. We straight up nosedived that baby right into the ground. But I say all that to ask this question. When you're going through a year like last year where it's kind of apparent that the wins are going to be in short supply, is there ever a point where you have to maybe have like an internal conversation with yourself and say, I still want to keep laying a heavy hand and, set that tone for the next couple of years for, way on down the line, because, I'm a young coach. I can pretty well do this as long as I want to my heart's content. But for my guys, their careers are on a allotment of time. Like they only have 4 years to do this. So I have to be cognizant of them enjoying their time. And, whether that's, maybe you let kids like laugh on the bus or something like that, or whatever it is. Is there a point during a season like last year where there is that fork in the road where, maybe you have to change your stripes a little bit?
You gotta remember, I treat coaching like, and I'm an educator too. I'm a teacher first. I don't run a basketball program any different than I would run a classroom. So you set expectations. I think one thing that as a coaching staff we didn't do 100% great job of is that we had expectations and we upheld those expectations. But the problem is like when you're teaching a class, if your kids can't meet the expectations or they struggle with something, you differentiate, you find new ways to teach them. And sometimes in a classroom, you need to change the expectation to fit the capability of each individual student. Coaching's not any different. The thing that was so difficult about this year is that I struggled to know what I should be expecting from each individual kid night in and night out. So I've never faced a challenge like this. I said at our banquet with our parents, I never faced a challenge like this even last year we had some struggle with wins when we lost all that talent. This year was completely different because we were really at a place that we weren't sure what we should be expecting of each individual kid. So, me as the head coach, hey, someone has to be the jerk sometimes, right? You want it to be your head coach. I have a really talented group of assistant coaches. So a lot of times I was not willing to bend on my expectations and what I expected of kids. Now, that makes me come off as maybe kind of harsh, and some parents might not fully appreciate me at the moment because we didn't do well this year. But my assistant coaches had me in their ear on a daily basis saying, I need you to reach out to this kid. I need you to talk to this group of guys at practice tomorrow. We've got to keep kids positive. When you have a really good group of coaches, that's how you handle adversity like that. Or when it's not going well and it's not going to get better maybe during the season, you hold kids to a high standard, because what that did give us is our kids didn't stop working in practice, especially our young guys. They kept working to get better in practice. My JV coach, Drew Matthews, he didn't bend or break. His JV team worked their way into above 500 record, playing a tough schedule just like we did. So you don't, head coaches shouldn't lax on their expectations. You have the whole off season to individually talk to your kids about rebuild them and things like that. My opinion is I want culture. I want every person that plays basketball in Ephrata to know this is what you expect when you come into the gym. So you lean on your assistant coaches to kind of help that process in a tough year. It's easy to get along when everybody's winning, but when you're losing, someone's got to hold expectations, and then your assistant coaches, they reach out to the individual kids and they let you know, and like, hey, this kid needs to pick me up, or hey, you might need to back off on this a little bit. So I say it's like teaching a classroom, but it's a little bit different, because when you're the head coach of a basketball program, you kind of almost leave the realm of the classroom teacher and you almost become like the principal. You're kind of keeping everything in line. I think that's the best analogy I can find.
Yeah. And you already kind of touched on this on your opening comments with us. But just as an outsider, I think there's two schools in particular in the county, Ephrata being one of them. And ironically, the other team I'm talking about is in your section in CV, where it looks like on the outside, all the ingredients are there for a pretty well quick turnaround and sustained success. But for whatever the reason, over the last decade or so, in primarily the two big sports, football and guys hoops, it hasn't quite been there. So obviously, with you being in the community, living there, and now being the CEO of the entire thing from top down, you obviously have said that the things are there for improvement, but what's going to be that key to basically turn that thing in the ignition and then keep it humming for a long period of time to where Ephrata is, consistently in the top three of the section and, competing for section and league championship aspirations every like 3 to 5 years or so?
Yeah. It's going to be this term. It's an education term again, but it's vertical articulation. I went to college with Ephrata's football coach. We have the same beliefs on this. When a kid walks into the gym in 5th grade for a basketball practice, they should hear the same defensive calls that I use. They should hear the same terminology about the drills that I use. It takes a lot of input from all your coaches in the community, so everyone has a hand in kind of deciding of where the ship sails. I even at a young, I guess my age is young for a number of years of head coaching experience. You start to realize that it's a little bit less about dictating exactly what you want. It's a lot more about facilitating what the program needs. So the thing that's going to, because the difference is that at a school like Ephrata, every few years, you're going to be given a group of kids that if you get them to attach to like your culture, they're going to have success. But as a head coach, you don't want to be good every few years. You want to be competitive every single year.
Right.
To get that, it takes a lot of identifying talent at a young age. It takes a lot of working really hard with your younger age coaches, having really good people you can trust in the junior high program. And, more than anything, like for my junior high coaches, it's hearing their voice. They are experts in the kids in their grade. So our 7th grade coach works closely with our travel teams to know what he's getting in 7th grade. and he kind of kicks the scouting report up to 8th grade, and then 8th grade and 9th grade, and I obviously keep watching him. So by the time our group gets to 9th grade, we're looking at what's each individual kid going to give to this program. We start trying to find roles that'll work for them. But those things take time, and you can be really successful for a year or two if you focus on one group of kids and say, we're going to do this because it'll be good for this group of kids. I obviously chose the road of, I want Ephrata basketball to be successful for a long time. So we build it like, what is Ephrata basketball what's our identity going to be that can make us competitive year in and year out? And then we bring the kids into that with a little bit of adjustment, like we have a group coming up that's going to be fantastic at shooting the basketball. We had a team the last 2 years that outside of one kid, we weren't scoring the basketball. In front of that group that we had on our JV team this year, that's a group that plays nasty, hard-nosed defense. So we have 2 years coming where we have a group of athletic kids that can play defense and a group of kids right behind them that can shoot the lights out. You find success with that at the varsity level, but you don't lose your identity. So it takes a lot of that working as a whole group to make sure it's changed for the better, for good.
Yeah. The other thing too, we already talked about this, you're an Ephrata guy, but you're also a Berks guy. You're teaching up at Muhlenberg in the school district. So kind of ironic of that tonight of all nights we have you on, because there's some pretty significant news today in the Berks and LL communities.
Yeah.
Obviously not basketball related, but I'm not sure what Berks and LL are now. I guess cousins or stepbrothers or something like that. So again, not a basketball move, but our two communities are going to be kind of unintended acquaintances here over the next decade or so. So from a basketball perspective, making that jump from Berks down to the LL, what's kind of your assessment on a side-by-side comparison of both leagues? And then also, if you could touch on basically this meteoric rise of Berks basketball over the last half decade or so. I mean, you had a state champion, and oh, by the way, the kid that was on that team was a McDonald's All-American. And then this year, your two coaches of the year in the two biggest classifications in the state, oh, by the way, they're from the same conference and the same division. Like that's unheard of.
Yeah, unheard of. I Lancaster Lebanon League, there's obviously a lot of pride around everything like that. Coaching in Berks, knowing a lot of those coaches. I know Coach Calder and Wilson. He teaches in my school district. I see him all the time. Coach Nesby, him and I we talk, we text off and on and stuff like that. We see each other around Muhlenberg, have a good relationship. What I'll say is that there's a whole lot of pride in Berks County for their sports programs. I knew when I came to Berks County as a professional and as a coach 7 years ago, there was more than enough talent to compete at the state level all the time. Lancaster Lebanon League, it's no different. There's a few more schools in Lancaster Lebanon League, and geographically, I guess it's a little bit bigger. It can be a really good marriage. Years ago, and Del, you might remember, there used to be an ICL, an inter-county league that used to mix in the different schools. So football-wise, I feel like it's a good marriage. It can help teams have more competitive games in their section, which is good for playoff points and things like that from a football standpoint. So I see the marriage as a good thing for Berks and the LL. I've coached in both leagues. I've really enjoyed the coaches I've coached against and coached with in both leagues. From a purely selfish guy that gets on referees, I will tell you that combining the leagues does do one thing. It makes good referees readily available. So that's a great thing for whenever the chapters figure out how to schedule together for those games, you should really get really good referees, especially for us guys in the top two sections, where the speed's a little bit more and all that kind of stuff. That's a good positive thing. In terms of Wilson and Muhlenberg and their success the last couple of years, it's a combination of you get really good talent, but then you need really good coaches that kind of facilitate this culture of winning amongst their best players. Coach Nesby at Muhlenberg took his good players and said you needed to play like with 100% confidence and let it rip. Was really good at building their identity. Obviously, Wilson. I've known Wilson for a long time. I've been coaching against Wilson for 11 years now. Matt Coldren kicked my butt as an assistant coach twice at Williamsport. I took him to overtime twice as a head coach, and then he beat me by 50 in a summer league game just a few years ago. So I've experienced a lot of different sides of Matt Coldren and Wilson basketball. They play great team defense, and offensively they do exactly what they need to do to win games. And Muhlenberg's identity is they attack you on defense, and they put the right guys in position to be successful. I think that's what all coaches are trying to do. I think for those two guys in Berks in the same division being so competitive against each other the last 2 years, I think success breeds success. I think Coach Nesby brought an attitude to Muhlenberg that was necessary. Got some talent in there and brought an attitude that I'll say because I've worked there, our community needed, and the kids really thrived in that. And then I think that helped Wilson also become even more competitive at the state level, because they already had Reading at that, Coach Rick Perez, who's another guy that I've coached against for, 11 years now since how long have I been out of college, my goodness. So I've been going against those guys for a long time. And I think those three programs and the guys at the head, the culture they have going on right now has just created a really good thing for Berks County. If that spreads over to Lancaster County, that's not going to hurt us. And it's not like the LL is not, we're nothing to sniff at. They're in the middle of a really good run with a lot of good talent. The marriage of football, in my opinion, is hopefully just a chance that, good athletes getting to play against more good athletes in a geographical location that makes sense. And my hope is that it brings more state success at the state level for both leagues. That's what I have to hope.
Hey, Coach, let me hop in here as a coaching thing. You're talking a lot about culture and identity. And we had Muhlenberg's coach on, we had Wilson's coach on. I talked Coach Wilson's coach, and I said, I can tell you what you're going to be like 5 years from now. I can tell you what you're going to be like 15 years from now. I know what your style is going to be, and you kind of fill in the gap. You got the quarterback, you got a big guy, you got a point guard, you play 40s, you're comfortable with that, you play good defense, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want to know what Ephrata's culture and identity is going to be, what you're working on. You're talking about it. You're talking about building things and what you're going to do. So it's like Andy asks this all the time. I kind of tease Andy. It's like, Andy, there's two types of coaches. There's a defensive coach and there's an offensive coach. So maybe you're a mixture of both. Go ahead. We'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah. You want to get into X's and O's? Hey, so one thing head coaches all have to figure out is you have to figure out your identity, right? So when I was an assistant coach, my job at Williamsport was to scout other teams and then make darn sure that our skill players were really good at scoring points. So I naturally became an offensive. And if you ask my high school coach, I was an offensive-minded guy. When I became a head coach, I've learned to appreciate a couple things: motion offense, because it makes kids comfortable, and culture starts on defense. So what I know about Ephrata now, after living in the community and coaching there for 3 years, is you're going to get a couple things every year. The year I took over the program, I had some pieces that put together, we could have scored even more points, truthfully. But the formula at Ephrata is going to be, you got to out tough people. What we learned in the district playoffs is that we weren't as strong as other programs in terms like physical strength. So a lot of our culture is going to be built on we're just going to be tougher and nastier than other teams. I've learned a new appreciation for coaching defense in my probably the last 4 years, going back to my last year or two at Muhlenberg and these years at Ephrata, because controlling tempo starts on defense. So I'm an up-tempo guy offensively. I want to push the ball offensively. But I only want to do that when I know I'm going to score. So I always tell kids the same thing. We're going to root ourselves in defense culturally, because if teams can't score on you, they can't beat you. At Ephrata, I can't always guarantee you that we're going to have 4 kids that can shoot the ball, and I can't always guarantee you that we're going to have 3 kids that handle the ball and cut their way to the basket all the time. But I can guarantee you we're going to have 8 to 10 kids that are willing to work hard on defense and listen and be coachable. And you can always make kids learn how to run, but you can't always teach kids how to enjoy working hard. Don't have to worry about that at Ephrata. they're going to work hard. It's just it's grounded in them there. So we're going to make it really hard for teams to score. We're going to be able to change defenses, and that's going to give us opportunities to score easy baskets. And that's where my culture's landed at this point. And I truly believe it's going to be the successful culture at Ephrata. We're actually looking at, I mean, we've been a pack line team now since Coach Fisher was there, and I like pack line because you're not relying on athletic ability, but you're relying on intelligence and being really good on the basketball. We have some, I think we're starting to build towards what I want to run pack line, but I want to go one step beyond like Virginia University, who runs pack line the best it's ever been ran. They should write the book and the only book about pack line. But I want to become more of like a trap team, a pressure team. I think our culture is going to always start there because it's so hard to build confidence on offense when you can have a team not feel bad when they miss a basket or turn the ball over because they're so confident on defense that your culture's set then.
What do you see? We're getting on a time issue here, but what do you see going on in Section 2 next year? Like, assuming everybody's back in school and everything's the same, what do you see in Section 2?
E-Town lost a lot, and I know Rocky moved on and all that, so that's gonna be tough. But Warwick's got a super talented run of athletes going through right now. CV is going to continue to improve. Their coach, he has very, very strong roots in what he wants to do. I know Lebanon's going to be talented, so I'd love to say it's anybody's game, but we have to see what happens. I'm scared of the talent that Warwick and Lebanon have. I know CV is going to get better. I know E-Town is losing a really, really talented senior class that won a ton of games. But with this weird offseason we're having, I kind of feel like in the fall, I hope we'll have a chance to mix it up and have a better idea of what we're really looking at. Because it's just interesting. I don't really know what to expect.
You got any shout out for the kids that are working for you right now, the underclassmen? You got any shout outs for kids working hard, or what, some guys that we might look at next year when we do our preview?
Yeah, I want to be honest. Park Halls, he's like a sleeping giant. So he quietly became our best player the second half of the year, which we always expect him to be. It just clicked. He started covering the other team's best player. Wasn't always scoring a lot, but his dedication has really taken a huge uptick. Very excited for him as a senior. I keep telling him he's just got to keep working, stay after it. We have Brady Snyder, who's a shooter that's coming on very, very strong, who I think is, a no doubt about it, knockdown shooter. We just have to find ways to make him more successful. But I really want to talk about our sophomore class right now that's going to be juniors, loaded with talent. Mason Hagan started for us at the start of this year, ended up having to take it on like a 6-man role. I told him flat out he had a sophomore slump. I experienced it when I was a sophomore in high school. It got people a little bit worried about where's he going to be. The kid's one of the most athletic kids in the LL. I mean, end line to end line speed, ability to play defense. Once his confidence gets figured out going into this season, he is going to be a huge problem for people that I look forward to watching. Other than that, we have a whole. It's really hard to start mentioning individual names.
Yeah, I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can list all 10 guys, all the ninth graders.
There's one more kid I got to talk about. Tyler Nelson. He's going to be a senior for us. Played off and on a lot of minutes, off and on this year as a junior. But I'm telling you right now, he's a 3-sport athlete at Ephrata. I think he's a captain of the football team now. If he's not a captain, he's definitely one of their leaders. Stud on the football field. Andy can tell you. Pretty good lacrosse player, and I don't think he picked up a stick until he was a sophomore in high school. The guy has the best attitude in the gym I've ever seen. He just works really hard, really wants to win, doesn't really care a whole lot about other things. And I think he's that type of kid. I'm basically telling you about kids that I see as our captains right now in our offseason trying to build this.
Good. Hey, Andy, we got 5 minutes left. You got anything else for Coach before we sign off?
I do. I know you're looking forward to move on from last year and everything like that, but every season is a metamorphosis of the one before. So short of doing the old cliche, well, there's nowhere to go but up from here. if we were to sit down next year at this time on May 6th, 2021, and I were to ask you, Coach, did you have a successful year this year? If you would tell me yes, what would be the reason or reasons for giving that response?
Oh, that's a good question. So a lot of people, I mean, me personally, I measure success in wins and losses because I'm a head basketball coach at the varsity level. But um, that's not how the world works. So success for me, and I always tell our kids this, if you talk to one of my kids, you'd understand this. I always say winning and losing isn't the problem for me. I can't stand when kids don't take advantage of opportunities or don't recognize potential. So this year, and this is a coaching staff problem, it's not just a kid problem, just we had some kids that we never got them to recognize potential or didn't get them to take advantage of the opportunities they had in front of them. You know, we didn't figure it out. I wish we played 100 games because I feel like if we had more time, we would have figured it out. We just didn't. So looking forward to next year, I would measure success based on, did the kids we have right now grow, and did they take advantage of opportunities for success? Did they maximize potential? You know, did we max out their growth from the start of last season until the end of next season? That's the only way, in my opinion, to measure growth because, you know, if kids are growing and you're teaching them how to be good people and use basketball as a vehicle for success, then you're really doing, I mean, that's the most important part of your job as a high school coach. So that's how I'll continue to measure my success.
Good.
Okay, Andy, got anything else? We're going to close it out here, buddy.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
I know you followed Ephrata and you were trying to get in there when they got that W this year, but it didn't quite happen.
I was close.
Yeah,
I was
know
close.
you were close. I know. Heartbreak City. That's what I called it.
I know. Andy looks out for me. Andy looks out for us, man. He takes good care for all the programs he follows. I really appreciate your guys' coverage. You know, I appreciate the opportunity for being here, guys. Come see us again. You can always say the cliche, there's nowhere to go but up. But I'm excited. You know, I stay excited. I think I think we're going to see different things this year. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, you got to let me know, though, if I need to get cleared at the door, being a Warwick kid and now being a Cocalico resident. I don't know if that's going to fly. Those are two bad pieces of bread in that sandwich. I don't know.
Well, now that I've racked up a couple of losses, I got to tell you, man, for me, the rivalries are getting deeper and deeper because I don't like losing. I keep telling my kids, like, you might not like losing, but I lost a tie in my shoe contest to my kid the other day. Like, I don't handle losing very well. Like, so, you know, I love all the coaches I coach against, but I would tell you right now, man, the rivalries for me are growing deep. We need to get people back.
Hey, Coach, I don't think Andy's going to have any problems getting in if he has an Ephrata basketball shirt next year when he walks in the gym. Hey,
I'm telling you, Andy, I'm not lying to you, man. I have something really sweet for you lined up. The first time you come to our gym in the preseason, I'm going to hook you up with something real nice.
I'll be there.
Get him to open gym when we open up. If we open up, you know, open Zoom gym or something. I don't know. Hey, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
And we really appreciate your time and just your honesty is really, it's really refreshing. It really is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck next year, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks,
Good night,
guys.
guys. Good night.
See ya.